Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gita Marie and today I want to talk about influencer culture. Now this is a topic that has been sort of lingering in the back of my head for a while, and in terms of sustainability I think this is kind of important. Now I have done videos about underconsumption, about overconsumption, about how to be the best type of consumer that you in your situation can be and what that might look like. I've talked about this for a while, and this is something I haven't really touched upon because it's not only about sustainability, it's also just about the things we see online and how it impacts us. If you go online, there's a really good chance that you will run into influencers. That's typically where they tend to be. And there's a pretty good chance that you will see some type of haul video, some type of try-on video, or some type of challenge video, all related to buying, accumulating, tasting products. Today's influencer culture is very product focused, which it inherently has to be because the business model for a lot of influencers and all the businesses that sort of comes from that, like the agencies, the marketing, it's all related to selling products. And as an influencer, it's very likely that your main source of income has to do with working with brands promoting their products. So it ends up being very product focused. Now, I want to talk about the fact that influencer culture, the fact that we're seeing content from influencers on our social media feeds is encouraging or inspiring or normalizing, I think is a better word for it, some pretty messed up behavior. Now, when we're constantly exposed to something, when we constantly see something, we end up thinking that it's normal. And I think the reason why I have been a little bit hesitant, like I'm not above criticizing specific influencers for doing specific things, but I think one of the main reasons why I haven't sat down and talked about influencer culture is that I am very particular that I don't want to just generalize every type of influencer because there are definitely many different variations. And also the name in and of itself is a little bit fluffy, so who is an influencer? I have seen a lot of articles generalizing influencers and saying they're all like this. You can't trust what influencers are saying. You can't trust what influencers are recommending to you. Influencers as a group in general inherently are untrustworthy. They promote overconsumption, they're out of touch, etc, etc, etc. There are literally 10,000 different types of prejudice that you could talk about for influencers. And a lot of these I have been exposed to myself because you could say, you could say that I too am an influencer. I have a YouTube channel. I have an Instagram page. I sometimes work with brands, but I don't do SHEIN hauls. I also don't promote brands as my main source of income. I write books and give lectures, which is one of my main sources of income. And then I also do this. Now, this is just to say, I am very much aware that I also fit in to this category to some extent at least, which also means that I have personal stakes in phrases like all influencers are untrustworthy, because I sort of just feel like that is generalizing to a point where it's just not very helpful to the nuance of the conversation. I think that's very important. But when we say stuff like influencers promote overconsumption or influencers normalize some really messed up behavior, we're talking about a specific type of influencer. I feel like the golden trifecta here is that marketing departments, especially for fast fashion companies, but let's be real, for many other types of companies as well, influencers and just general overconsumption has normalized some pretty messed up type of behavior. When I was in high school, I watched a lot of YouTube and I watched a lot of haul videos. I watched a lot of YouTubers talk about what they bought from ASOS and Topshop and Primark. And that is also how my own YouTube journey started. The first thing I did on YouTube was showing a new pair of Jeffrey Campbell Litas that I bought, and I loved those shoes to bits. I am to this day very, very sad that I sold them when they sort of went out of style. They were just so cool. It was the most expensive shoe I've ever bought that I let it go. Anyway, so my YouTube journey started by doing the same kind of content because I aspired to be able to perform the same level of consumption as these big influencers and YouTubers. And this was even before influencer was a word. This was when you called them YouTubers, beauty gurus, what have you. So this is also why I can say that this type of content normalized a really, really weird level of consumption that I aspired to achieve. And this was somewhat bad back then. It has gotten completely out of control. Now, I'm gonna sound ancient for a while, but just like, bear with me, hang on here. A lot of the behavior I normalized back then has taken me so long to unlearn. Now, it's not normal to be able to buy clothes that you can show off every week or every month. This amount of clothing hauls and buying so much at the same time is not normal. It's also not normal on the other end of the spectrum. It's not normal to buy luxury goods like you're buying groceries. Also, shout out to some groceries being so expensive. They are literally a luxury product. Anyway, it's also not normal to constantly be off on retreats or holidays or self-care spa appointments, being off to the hairdressers every single month. Not normal. It's never been some type of behavior that my budget has been able to withstand. It's not normal to be able to buy the newest things, that being cell phones, laptops, bags, shoes, every single time something new drops. It's not normal to have storefronts worth of makeup and beauty products and perfumes. The thing that happened sort of with influencer culture, the thing that happened when all of these people gained a really large following and started getting all these things for free, is that we created a new level of normal. Like, it's not crazy to see someone have 50 lipsticks. And the thing is, you could say that this has always been normal for some people. That will always be true. But when we see it every time we open our social media feeds, it starts to feel normal for people that cannot achieve this type of lifestyle. It's not normal for people, is what I'm saying. And also, it's also super unsustainable to be able to hoard this much stuff. It's a romanticization of hoarding is what it is. And it's very easy to do when you are the influencer, because you're getting all this stuff for free just by talking about it. But the social impact that this type of content has had on people is wild. Now, I'm never gonna sit here with my full chest and say that the reason why we're seeing this massive influx in fast fashion is solely because of influencers, or even solely because of consumers, because it's an artificial demand that's created by the fast fashion companies. It's always important to, whenever we talk about this in any sort of capacity, to always talk about the corporations that's making billions behind the scenes here. But I will also not say that influencer culture has not had a massive impact on the amount, on the volume of clothes that consumers are aspiring to buy. That is an intensely important nuance to this, because when we're seeing fashion hauls consisting of 50 pieces of clothes, 50 pieces of clothes at some point starts to feel like a reasonable amount of clothes to buy. But that has something to do with the fact that now we're seeing places like Temu and SHEIN, Fashion Nova, like these ultra fast fashion companies popping up and becoming really popular, because that means that regular people can now buy 50 pieces of clothes. You could also argue the same thing sort of for Primark. I feel like their prices are also just a t-shirt should never cost £3. It's not possible. It shouldn't. It is in many cases. It shouldn't. I have never been able to buy 50 pieces of clothes from a Topshop. I don't even know if Topshop exists anymore. I'm just living in the past. But this is just to say that the urge to participate in the fashion haul culture has had something to do with the fact that now we can. Like, the requirements or sort of the expectations for the quality of the clothes is not as important as the volume you're able to buy. And now I'm gonna say something that's really controversial. Not really, but here goes. It's not a human right to be able to buy cheap and trendy clothing. And SHEIN, if we're just taking SHEIN as an example, is a new concept. People were on budgets, and on very limited budgets, before SHEIN ever existed. Because every time I talk about SHEIN and Temu and these very cheap places to buy things, I get a lot of comments in the ballpark of, well, this is the only place I can afford clothes. Now, I came from a childhood that was very affected by limited resources, let's say it like that. And I overcompensated when I started making my own money and owned 100 pairs of shoes. Like, that's a whole other story. But being a child, we didn't have a lot of resources. And I remember specifically how we borrowed clothes from other people, how we swapped clothes with other families, how we got clothes from older kids that couldn't fit into their clothes anymore. And when we couldn't fit into it, it drizzled down to another family. And whenever I got an outfit in an actual store, it was a really big thing. And it was clothes that I treasured, and I felt it was really special. There was one time in my childhood where I got a whole outfit. Other than that, for Christmas, I would get like a pair of trousers or a shirt or something like that. But there was one time where I got a whole outfit because I was playing a really big part in the school musical, and I wore a whole new outfit and I felt so cool. It was an all red denim look. What I'm getting at here is that we survived without SHEIN. I sound ancient when I say buying clothes from a store was special, but it was, and it's something that it's memories I treasure today. Also, side note, but blaming poor people for the rise in popularity of SHEIN is also a misrepresentation of who's actually buying from SHEIN, because the average consumer on SHEIN is a 35-year-old woman who makes roughly $65,000 a year and who spends an average of $100 a month on clothing. Now, that is not poverty. That is not poor people on budget behavior. While I also recognize that there are some people that feel like that's the only place that they can afford clothing, that is, and now I'm just gonna say something, that is also not true, because there is still Facebook Marketplace, there are still clothing swaps, there are still secondhand places, there are still thrift stores. Some thrift stores are more expensive than others, obviously, but there are still other means of acquiring clothes. I think a myth today is that we somehow lack clothing. Clothing is one of the most easily accessible resources that we have, because we produce 100 billion pieces of clothes every single year. There is loads of ways to get clothing. So it's not so much the fact that some people don't have clothes to put on their bodies, because that has never been the issue. It is being on trend. It's feeling stylish, it's feeling like you're current. And now we're back to that is not a human right. I guess I'm just really overseeing both regular people as well as influencers that are working with these ultra fast fashion platforms defend this type of behavior like it's their right to own cheap clothing. Like the clothing that they're buying is worth the waste and exploitation that it's causing. Like the ultra poor people working in the supply chains that makes these clothes are worth less than the people that buy the clothes. If we care about poverty and we care about poor people's right to live and thrive, it's especially a good idea to cut out these brands, because they don't care about poor people. They might sell you a t-shirt for £3, but they give absolutely zero shits about the people in their supply chains that are working slave labor hours for slave labor wages. And if you care about poor people, you would care about them too, and you would buy less from these places, if any. Favorite thing in the whole world is when I see people comment that they are on very, 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 very tight budgets, but still has never shopped in these places and has found other ways of acquiring clothes. That is my favorite thing in the world, because it is absolutely possible. Also, I lived it. That was my entire childhood. Hello. And this is not to blame people on budgets for the problem, because it's absolutely not their problem. It's also not poor people that overconsume, first and foremost. Okay, if you buy only what you need, no matter where you buy it, you are not a part of the problem. I'm just saying that even though you're not a part of the problem, there's also better ways of going about it. Overconsumption is like sort of just going back to the influencer culture. Overconsumption is the problem. It's because these businesses are profiting off of the fact that we are not only buying what we need, we're buying so much more. And one of the reasons why that is because we're being nudged by the marketing departments to buy more than we need, because we're gamifying the shopping experience, because we're being tempted with cheap offers, discount codes, and free stuff. But it's also because we've normalized the level of consumption that the planet cannot withstand and that we can't withstand. Also, and I saw someone comment this and I was really happy about that, because that's a whole other thing. Maintaining this lifestyle is a full-time job for influencers. But when regular people normalize this type of behavior, it has to fit into an already existing routine. That is really stressful. Maintaining that level of consumption is super stressful and really, really expensive. Regular people are not getting these things for free. It doesn't just happen organically around them. But the normalization is still there, which can cause like frustration and anxiety. It can cause people to be really unhappy. When we're seeing this level of overconsumption and when we normalize this level of overconsumption, there's also a really big risk that we will end up feeling like we're failing when we can't achieve the same level of overconsumption as we're seeing. Because I guess a lot of people, a lot of consumers consuming this type of content isn't seeing overconsumption. They're seeing success and they're seeing wealth and feel like they are not enough or they are not good enough, because they can't achieve the same level of success. It's something I've experienced myself, both as a watcher and a consumer of that content, and as someone who tried to live that lifestyle as well. It's incredibly draining. If you want to know more about my time as that type of influencer and a fashion week girly, I have storytime videos as well about it. So I'll leave those down below if you're interested. I think as a last comment here, I want to say, buy less stuff, buy less crap. As a last note, unfollow any creator that's constantly doing hauls with fashion. Either that being like luxury goods, like they're buying fucking groceries, or that being like Big Shimu, which is apparently a combination of Temu and SHEIN, but like you catch my drift. Doing ultra slow fashion hauls or buying willy-nilly luxury goods. Unfollow any creator that tags into that type of content, because we don't need it, and we're going to be so much better off when we're not consuming that type of content and not constantly being exposed to it. Unfollow creators that do nothing but buy shit things. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Please let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Let us have a conversation and learn from each other, and let's share with the group. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, and I will see you guys next time. Take really good care of yourselves. Until then, bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green, zero-waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!